What's a company secret you can share, now that you don't work there? If you don't hear music when you're supposedly on hold, the operator simply muted their mic and can still hear you. I've heard interesting and damning things while they thought I couldn't hear them. I was setting up a new account with the phone company, back in the landline days. I think the operator meant to mute her mic but didn't. She had to do some stuff in the background while I was supposed to be on hold or something. I could hear her typing, but at the same time she was telling someone in her office about a party she'd been to the previous weekend. It was hilarious, both her story and the situation in general, but I couldn't laugh out loud. I had to stifle myself to hear the end of the story. And this is why I am always polite, even if I'm explaining something to my husband while waiting on hold with someone. On the off chance that they can hear me, they don't need a customer with attitude when they're a lowly employee who has little to no control over what happened to me in the first place that I'm likely calling to complain about. They are out of business now, but in the early 90s I worked at Radio Shack for a year and a half. When people would return an item because it didn't work, the manager of the store would just box it back up and sell it again as if it were new. When I asked him about it he said, hopefully they will return it to a different store. I nearly got fired when I refused to sell a guy a walkie-talkie CB radio that I knew didn't work. The guy was on his way out for a hunting trip and was buying 3 of these for him and his friends. We had 2 and the third was the broken one. In front of the customer, I told the manager that one didn't work and I had tested it. The guy was happy I told him. We arranged for him to get the last one he needed at a different store and off he went. The manager was livid with me and nearly fired me. I'm sorry, I'm not sending people out into the forest with gear I know doesn't work. Hilariously, a few months later the manager was caught stealing from the store and got fired. I one time returned a monitor to a Fry's that had a defective mount so that it was lopsided no matter what. I literally watched the guy box it back up to normal looking, tape it, and while he was refunding my card I saw another walk over and put it back on the shelf. No wonder they're out of business now. This was extremely common at the Fry's I worked at back in the mid-00s. Management knew and didn't care if the product didn't work, open box tag it and toss it on the shelf. In my department it was garbage ECS PC motherboards and Airlink network adapters, which had obscenely high return rates year after year. During the GPU shortage around 2017 I bought a GPU from Fry's that had a sticker on it that showed it was a return. Got home and it was smashed up, the kind of damage that just wouldn't be done in shipping. The box was 100% intact. Returned it again. They never checked even though I said it was damaged. Saw it back there a few days later. I loved Fry's but they were so poorly run and mismanaged. Had cashiers and managers refuse to fulfill sales sent out in ads too. At a major insurance company I wrote software for was very big on security. If we needed to make an update, we weren't allowed to remote into the server, even though you physically could, it was just against policy. To make an update, you had to put your changes onto portable storage, show your ID to the security guy, use your key to open the door, get escorted to the server, then they'd observe you via cameras. The login? Admin the password? Blank. Literally no password. The worst part about that story is I 100% believe it. The Equifax standard. You know, would you not think that is the most secure password ever? We all put passwords in for everything. No one ever expects no password. 12345 is a password only an idiot would use. But 12354, no one will see that coming. The difference between the high-quality deli meat sold at M&S and the regular deli meat sold in other grocery stores is that we changed the label. We would literally stop the production line, wait for the guy who ran the label machine to swap them out and then start it back up again. This is not an uncommon occurrence across any product. Arby's manager replaced the expiration stickers on the bread with new ones. I guess so the bread would last longer that way. I threw out 100 plus pitas with green fuzz on them after checking the manager's work. Food-related scams like this make me so angry. I agree. As someone who owns a restaurant and trains cooks, one rule I tell all my guys, never F with people's food. Yep, Subway manager used to do similar. Prepped all the veggies and meats, like way over prepped and everything went out. Most things last 2 days. Lettuce after a couple of days becomes a slimy sludge. They basically wanted me to replace all the date marking stickers and call it a day. Not only was it horrifically bad, it was time intensive. But I wasn't having it, I discarded all of it, bins of waste. I told the area manager. Nobody did anything, just said be quiet. Then the manager disappeared off the face of the earth, thankfully for our sakes. Then the manager disappeared off the face of the earth. Damn. Subway doesn't mess around. Haven't seen Jared in years either. The secret ingredient of Jimmy John's tuna salad is soy sauce. I worked at Jimmy John's, and when I got home one day to make a tuna sub, my family was shocked as to why I put soy sauce in my tuna, even though they love eating at JJ's just as much as I do. They never realized the soy sauce trick. I used to work for a rural ISP. We had one access point with 13 customers, but only 12 IP addresses provisioned. This means only 12 out of 13 people could be online at any one time. Anytime a customer called from that service area, we'd log in and reboot the tower's radios, kicking everyone offline to force DHCP renewals. It always meant whomever was calling in was able to get an IP and get online, but we knew that if all 13 customers wanted to be online at once, we wouldn't be able to service them. I brought it up with management, but they deemed it too expensive to address. I explained that it made us look like a fly-by-night shady as hell outfit. Since it was a rural ISP, I knew I'm not just talking to one person either, I'm talking to him, his wife, dog, kids, priest and 5 buddies from the coffee shop. Make a bad impression on one person and you might as well take out an ad in their local paper calling the whole town assholes. I handed out a lot of free months of service working there and would often make the point credits aren't revenue for justifiability angry customers. This could have easily been addressed with some NAT at minimum. They weren't paying for specifically a public IP, which since they got DHCP they weren't. This would have been a pretty quick fix too. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Unless client was paying specifically for a fixed IP, this is done pretty routinely. I had Verizon DSL and I suspected this. They guaranteed that you got 3 MB/s, but I was lucky to get half that in prime time evening hours. I noticed that if I called in to complain, my speed would suddenly increase to 3 MB/s and then gradually decrease, and it's because my line would get top priority unless someone else complained, then they'd get a boost, and then a third person would complain and they'd be the top of line pushing me down further. Ice manufacturing, my shift manager dropped a 7-gram bag of weed in a bag of ice. It went out for delivery. No one ever phoned in to complain though. But did anyone phone in to thank you? Everyone's favorite sauce that people wanted the recipe for was mostly mayonnaise. Sure, it was called creamy pineapple sauce, but it's just pineapple salsa and mayonnaise. Pretty much every restaurant special sauce is mostly mayonnaise. Yup, this one was funny cause people would tell me they tried to make it and mentioned whipping cream or milk, lol. There's both milk and mayo in the white garlic sauce that's common at kebab places. Although you really need the red sauce as well to complement it. Even Big Mac sauce is mostly mayonnaise. Its ingredients aren't a secret and haven't been for decades. The chief chef of McDonald's actually has, or had, a video on YouTube where he shows how it is made. I bought the ingredients and tried it a few times and it tasted pretty close to what the restaurants serve. All in all though, it's too much work. Might as well just buy a Big Mac. Similar to this, a restaurant I once worked at was failing and unpopular. There was however one menu item that was universally popular and praised around town: the house soup. No one knew it was Campbell's, straight from the can. That would be hilarious to see on Kitchen Nightmares. It's happened. Gordon gave them hella shit and showed them how to make a basic but tasty soup. In the follow-up after the show to see how they liked the changes, the restaurant had gone back to canned Progressive soup. Worked at a major cable/ISP and their 4 billing cycles. They upgraded the billing system, but did something wrong, and all but the current cycle got a late charge. But instead of fixing it immediately, we were told to credit their account if the customer called in. I did the math, and for the size of our city, and the 3/4 of people wrongly charged, it was over $1 million USD. Most people just pay their bill and don't look to close. Comcast. They do this all the time. Not really worth the hour plus it takes on the phone for them to not steal from you, but it's worth it to them to steal from thousands of people. Comcast is under the same umbrella as insurance companies as far as I'm concerned. There is a reason they were voted worst company in America many years in a row. Movie theaters don't make money off the tickets, they make money off the food and drinks. Despite this, 99.9% of theater staff give less than 0 shits if you sneak food in. All we ask is that you're subtle enough that we don't get yelled at by the 0.1% who cared. I think I heard it best that as long as you're not bringing in a food with a strong enough aroma or noise that it disturbs others' guests, then nobody will care. I almost exclusively go to theaters though that provide full dinner menus. Once I brought my own ketchup in a Tupperware because the place serves excellent fries but never provides enough ketchup. The server noticed once and told me I couldn't bring in my own food. I'm 100% certain it was a liability issue in that if I got food poisoning or sick from my own food I couldn't end up suing the theater. She made me promise that I wouldn't eat it. I promised. I lied. If you go to an event that has event security, ask them for better seats, or be really nice to them, they might bring you something special. I work at a hockey rink. We give nice people pucks, pins and let them go down to the front to see the players. This is true. My wife is a saint to people in the service industry and has received so many random upgrades at hotels and gigs because she's just nice to people. My wife's a whore and gets the same. Ice machines are disgusting inside, full of slime. Ah, but it's cold slime. So, better? Kind of, it's the impurities in the water that don't freeze. Occasionally it will drip into the ice bucket depending on the model. That and mold. It's guaranteed to get mold if you don't clean it properly at least once a week. You know that weird taste common with ice from fridge ice makers? Yeah, it's mold. Hotels do not typically have security, maintenance or housekeeping on staff 24/7. Once housekeeping finishes cleaning all the rooms, the entire staff leaves except for one front desk employee. Yeah, the amount of times I, at the time a 19-year-old kid, was left completely alone at a mid-size and largely recognizable hotel brand was honestly kinda wild. I had essentially no clue what I was doing. People would call that something in their room was broken and literally the best I could do was go up and just kinda troubleshoot random shit. And then during that time the front desk was completely unattended. This was at like 9 p.m. to not 3 a.m. Worked in insurance, hundreds of people have access to your SSN with no security clearance or background check. The same is true of every HR office in existence. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily uploads. After you've done that, check out one of our other videos.